All right. So what's the final step for the brush? It has everything to do with the brush settings, the shape dynamics, the texture, and the shape dynamics should be controlled by pin pressure. That's whether it can go thick to thin, right? You can also play with opacity. For refined painting, I always keep it at an opacity of around 60. And you can control the size of the brush. And that's right here. So even though I designed it pretty big, this brush will be used a little bit smaller. And then as it overlaps itself, it's going to mix the color. The angle jitter, the roundness jitter, and then the texture, I like to use this watercolor texture at a fairly low depth so that the openness in the middle of the brush is showing as well. Okay, now how does this work? With color, just like the regular brush, you hold down Option and you can steal colors. And because we're only using it at 60%, you see how that one color I painted with that red at 65% looks different depending on what pixels are underneath it, right? Whether it's your base color or whether it's in the same layer. And then I can use the new colors that I created by overlapping them and steal from those and get new colors. And steal from those and get new colors. And steal from those and get new colors. And on and on and on until they start blending. Just like you're mixing paints on a palette. And I can mix colors the same way. These are really hideous colors, but you can start to see how they blend. And I can get even browns and even things that look like dark yellows from just the reds and greens coming together. Now, ultimately, what does this give us, especially on top of a base color? It gives us a more interesting paint surface. So, I go back to my painting, and I'm going to be working on the only layer that I have unlocked, which is my refined paint layer. And if I want to, I can always create more refined paint layers because I created a new brush. So I'll call this new refined paint. You can have as many as you want. And now with this new brush, it's going to remember all the settings. It's nested just right on the bottom of my brush options. And I'm still painting with red, right? But I can use this to make new colors to paint with. And steal other colors and blend them in. And on and on. It's good to be pretty bold. So I tend to use kind of a medium color like that. And then I'll glaze over it with something lighter to help blend it in. So you see the difference it makes. And all of this, if you're trying to match the three-dimensionality of a reference, you want to have your reference showing. So I'm going to turn my references on. And from a distance here, I can see where I still need to build up some tone. See, good thing I locked my layers. So I almost painted on my reference layer. I can see where I need more of this. More of the red. And then what I think is the trickiest thing about digital painting is not just focusing on the parts that are interesting, but trying to bring finish to all the lesser focal points as well. So moving away from the head and dealing more with the tail here, which I just composited it in from other strokes. But now I can go over with more refinement. Find that texture, find that energy. Those colors based on William de Kooning's. These textures based on traditional painting methods, not just digital ones. Sometimes using really dark colors, but I try to never use black or pure white. So you just want them a little bit off. I'll start to feel more dimensional. I squint a lot to see where the midtones are, where the highlights are. The middle gray background helps with that. I've got a pretty forgiving subject matter here with all of this texture. So I get to do big strokes. If I was doing like a short-haired animal, or if I was doing like the head of a bird, or if I was doing the scales of a reptile, right? I would keep to shorter strokes. But here I have these kind of long linear strokes to mix. So I let each stroke kind of wrap around the form, just like the fur does. And it's not like I'm trying to match the photo exactly. Just trying to get something that looks representative, so that fans of this Sesame Street character would recognize it. Then maybe I'll print this out and give it to my niece who just started school. I've used this method to do kind of portraits of friends and families, pets, especially pets that have passed away. And sure, they have plenty of photos of their pets, but how often do we actually look at our photos of family members, of pets, even of vacations, right? We take them and we kind of forget them. That's another way we kind of devalue digital imagery, because it wasn't that hard to get in the first place. So it doesn't take up a lot of space in our memories. But when someone creates something through this kind of process, we tend to value it more. Because of that human-made quality. Even with all the mistakes, even with all the weirdness, the strange color choices. So the trick to me for digital painting is finding a way to make it feel unique to you. Just like whenever you put pen to paper, you have the chance to make something that's uniquely yours. And a lot of what I showed you with this project was kind of how to get around the default tools, how to make your own brush, how to set it up with opacity in a certain way. So it's still giving you results quickly and not being overly technical or burdensome, using the advantages of digital, of course. But it's not like just a filter that's applied to everything evenly, like we see so often. That you still, through your own hand and through your own time and effort, are making the decisions about how to shape the image, what to pay attention to. And now that you've had some exposure to it, you can use this technique as a finishing technique on any kind of two-dimensional digital art that you would want to create. Even if you start it in another method, like if you start it by compositing photographs, and then you use this to paint over the top of it. And this very well might be a technique you use in your final project, which is the next project we're doing, where you'll get to choose your own techniques towards your own ideas. All right, I think I'm pretty good on the legs. So what am I ignoring? The shadow here. Always look for those darkest darks that kind of help turn the form. The shadow here. A nice mix in oil painting for a customized black is alizarin crimson and ultramarine blue. So if you take like a deep blue like this, it's kind of more purple, but it works. And then you do an alizarin crimson like this, and you overlap them, you get this nice kind of deep shadow. That's like a chromatic dark. And that's much better than just using black, which doesn't have any of those color notes to it. So when I was taught oil painting, I was told to always mix your black. Don't use it out of the tube. Don't even mix black with other colors, because it just looks dead compared to the colors you can mix to get something as dark. And then there are other artists I know who just, they don't paint with black, but they actually start their paintings by just covering the paper. Sometimes they just paint on black paper, but they'll cover a canvas with just black gesso. And another reason I like working on this gray background instead of pure white is it gives you kind of a toned surface to build up from. And that's pretty common to traditional painting as well, especially acrylic and oil paint. All right. So now I think I've got what I was hoping for from the paint surface. So how can I check? I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to look at what this paint surface is giving me. And then I'm going to check the edges, right? If I ever see like edges that look kind of artificial, I'm just going to hit them with my refined brush. Because sometimes those edges kind of peek through this, get untouched from your base layer. And so the only place I see them is mostly at the edges on the outside, and I'm going to trim those out. But when I see them on the interior here, I just have to hit them a few times. That's where the tail comes in. Remember the pressure sensitivity of your brush. Holding down Option, just hovering with my left hand over the Option key because I'm using my right hand to paint. Remember, I put some weird colors into the base color. That green, I can grab that, put a little bit of that into the refined layer as well. I'm just using the same brush, the same size. I'm just using my space bar to kind of move around as zoomed in. There is another tool that I often use at this point, or not tool, but window asset. So if I go to Window and I click on the navigator, this makes it easier to navigate around and to see the whole of the image that I'm doing. So at this point I might turn off my references and just look at the edges. And then finish those off with my refined paintbrush at 60% opacity.